Young Heidi was completely clueless and just fell for her aunt's words. She wanted to say goodbye to Grandpa, but her aunt whisked her away in the carriage, saying there was no time. When Peter came back from shepherding, Grandpa didn't see Heidi and nearly fainted, dropping his sickle. He rushed down the mountain, only to freeze in the sound of laughter, and just like that, he lost Heidi. Once Heidi's laughter was the warm sunshine in Grandpa's life, but with her departure, that light immediately went out. All that was left was endless darkness and loneliness, enveloping him tightly, and before he knew it, Heidi was taken to Frankfurt. Facing this marvelous world of information, she was filled with curiosity and couldn't help but peek around, as her aunt led her into a mansion. After entrusting Heidi to the housekeeper, her aunt slipped away like lightning with the money. It turned out the mansion owner sought a playmate for his daughter. When the two kids of the same age met for the first time, they instantly hit it off. This relaxed Heidi, but when she learned Clara couldn't walk, she excitedly started racing with her in the wheelchair. The next second, the wheelchair crashed into a table, shattering a precious vase. The housekeeper rushed in, and Clara took all the blame. At the next dinner, Heidi became the center of attention. She was completely clueless about utensils and table etiquette. She even fell asleep while the housekeeper was teaching her the rules. In her dreams, she was back in the beautiful Alps. But when she woke up, everything around her was still confusing, and from then on, she had to constantly take lessons from the housekeeper. Despite all the unpleasant experiences, she became good friends with Clara and discovered that the bread here was soft and fluffy. At every mealtime, she'd sneak a piece to take back for Peter's grandma, and after getting the hang of basic etiquette, Heidi dove right into her stuff. But right from the start, things were chaotic because she couldn't read at all, and the teacher was nearly pulling her hair out. Thankfully, Clara was always smiling to help her out, so the teacher had to patiently start over. Clara had Heidi push her into another room where a portrait of her with her mother hung on the wall. Once she could stand, but after her mother's passing, she fell into a deep emotional hole and lost the ability to walk. Heidi didn't know how to comfort her, so she simply placed a hand on Clara's arm, sharing silent warmth. At night, Heidi lay in bed, staring at the moonlight outside, feeling waves of nostalgia wash over her. She longed for the mountain breezes and grassy fields, but more than anything, she missed Grandpa's warm hugs. So the next day, she mustered the courage to ask the housekeeper to open the window. She thought that would let her see the lovely Alps, but when the window opened, all she saw was a cold, lifeless building. Noticing her disappointment, the housekeeper pointed to a distant, towering clock tower, saying it was the town's highest point where she might see what she wanted. Heidi was clearly intrigued. Once lunchtime hit, she seized her chance and sneakily wheeled Clara out of the mansion while the housekeeper wasn't looking. The streets were bustling with crowds and bustling noise, while vendors shouted their wares. Wheels rumbled on cobblestones, mingling with the chatter of the people. Clara sat in her wheelchair, curiously looking around, her cheeks slightly flushed. This lively scene was something she had never seen in the confines of her grand estate. Upon reaching the clock tower, Clara patiently waited at the door while Heidi eagerly dashed up to the roof. Panting with excitement, she gazed out in anticipation, only to be utterly disappointed. For all she could see were chimneys pouring out dark smoke. There wasn't a mountain in sight. That's when she finally realized that her aunt had been tricking her all along, and that this place was far from Grandpa's home. It felt like two different worlds, and with no options, she could only sulkily head back downstairs, wheeling Clara along toward home. But when they got home, the housekeeper was already waiting at the door, and the look on her face could scare a ghost. Before she could scold them, a fit of sneezes erupted, and several kittens scampered out from Clara's blanket. Allergic to cats, she turned pale and dodged kittens frantically, causing chaos. Heidi and Clara narrowly escaped that mayhem, but once things settled down, trouble was sure to come. Heidi was punished and forbidden from dinner, while the housekeeper hovered behind her with a frosty glare. She warned Heidi in a sharp and stern voice that if it happened again, she'd be locked in the dark room. Feeling both wronged and scared, Heidi's determination to go home only grew stronger. Back in her room, she held back tears and quietly packed her things. Then she went to Clara's room, looking at this companion she had spent time with, her heart full of reluctance. Subtitles, but the thought of returning home was like a seed that had already taken root in her heart, utterly unstoppable. What she didn't know was that she had already been sold here by her aunt, and unless she got the owner's approval, there was no way out. As she retreated, she accidentally dropped the bread from her pocket, scattering it everywhere. This was all saved for Peter's grandma, and seeing this made Clara's heart break into pieces. She had finally made a friend, yet Heidi seemed to have forgotten all about her. Perhaps from the very start, Heidi never intended to stay. Clara just couldn't figure out what she had done wrong. Clara, increasingly heartbroken, sunk deeper in sorrow all day until her father and grandmother returned home. Only then did her smile return. When her grandma first saw Heidi, she thought she was just so pure. She secretly liked this girl, but the housekeeper chimed in at the worst time, calling her rude and strange. If you enjoyed our story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, everyone.